Alright guys, welcome back. CFP here, and this is Survival Living. So today's video is the one wood challenge. Basically it's a bow drill challenge. You got to use one piece of wood and create a bow drill, create a sustainable fire, all from the same material. That means I got to build my bird's nest, I got to make lumber for my fire, I got to make my fireboard, and I've got to make my spindle and my divot holder, the bow drill spindle holder, out of one piece of wood. Now this here is a dead standing tree. I think we're going to use this and cut this off and try to make our materials out of this. Now the only thing on the bow drill challenge, you can use anything for the bow itself, a branch off of anything, because it's just a curved piece of wood or a straight piece of wood that you can curve. Now for our bow string, well, I'm just going to use bootlace because I don't have any paracord on me. I just wanted to use whatever it is that I've got available to me, and I got some bootlace, so we're going to use that. Alright, so this is going to work. Alright, so this is going to work. So we got to manufacture a fireboard out of this and our spindle. Now, what I want to do, I want to try to keep as much of this bark material. We're going to collect that because this is what we're going to be using when it's processed correctly, along with shavings. Here we go. This stuff will ignite. This is some good material here. So we're going to try to collect all that. So we got our wood cleaned off, we got all of our bark off, got most of this material off here. It's a good solid piece of wood here. So what we're going to do, I believe we're going to cut a length here off, and we're going to make our spindle and fireboard off. Usually when I want a spindle, Black Scout Survival calls it the hang 10. Basically you want your spindle about that long. That's what I like to use. I can handle it pretty decent if it's about that long. So we're going to cut it off here. We're going to split our boards and everything. We're going to have to baton it, get our fireboard made, and I will show you exactly how to do that. I got a bunch of hitchhikers on me because I had to go through the fields to get out here, and technically it's fall out here in Florida, and we do have these hitchhikers everywhere. So now we got a small piece here. So the best thing to do is to lock this in as much as possible so you don't hurt yourself, for one, because the last thing you want to do is cut yourself out in the woods. So we're just going to lock it in our leg, use our saw. Cut our piece off, and we can use this as a baton. So now we're going to split this down, make our board and our spindle out of this piece. Alright guys, so we'll set our knife up here, grab our makeshift mallet here. Okay, so we got our first split. Doesn't look bad. Doesn't look bad at all. I think, you see how it's got waves? We're gonna have to trim that off for our board. I believe we're gonna use this piece here as our board. So I'm gonna set that off to the side. And now we need to split this again so we can get material for our spindle. Now comes the fun part. We got to carve out a spindle out of this wood. Don't worry guys, we'll fast forward it for you. So as you see, we're starting to get it formed. Takes a minute, it really does. Now you might be wondering, why am I holding my knife and pulling the wood to me? Well, the reason why is because I need my spindle to be as straight as possible, okay? So using leverage on my arm and actually peeling back and rotating the spindle while I'm doing this, I'm actually getting a much smoother cut, and it's actually straightening out my spindle for me, instead of trying to do this where my pressure's off each time I try to cut. Now you can do it that way just fine. Personally, I like this method right here. Makes it much easier, and it makes your spindle formation much better, because you want that spindle as straight as possible. That way when you're spinning it, it's not all wobbly and stuff. So like I said, we're just going to go to the hang 10 side, so some of this is going to get cut off. Probably right about there. Go ahead and put a notch right there. From there back is going to be our spindle. And if you guys can see, it's hot out here. Florida. If you can survive Florida, buddy, you can survive just about anything. I've been in snow, been in the rain. The heat is brutal. I've been in the desert. Heat is brutal. Humidity zaps energy out of you really quick. Okay, so this is going to be the length of our spindle. We're going to trim this down and get our ends correct. Alright guys, so we have the tip of our spindle. This is going to go up in our holding block, our bearing block up here. You notice I got it pointed up here. It's not all the way to a point, it's got a flat spot there, but this way, I mean, it does have a nice straight to it. Now for this end here, I'm sweating all over everything. So I got that challenge too. I'm actually sweating on my spindle. It's got to be dry. We're taking it, we're just rounding the edge. We don't want to point on this end. All right, now for comparison, you see my thumb next to the spindle itself. That's about what I like to use. I used to use smaller ones, and sometimes I'd burn right through my board. One of the things I found out taking that Pathfinder course is that if you go wider, you're actually causing more friction on your board, and it's a lot less work. So that's what we're doing right now. We're rounding this out. That was a nice little blunt round edge on the end of our spindle. So this is a learning experience for everybody too, because I've seen a lot of people online with very small, thin spindles that they're creating, and what they don't show you on film is that they're punching holes through the board left and right. So thicker the spindle, about the size of your thumb, works pretty well. Alright guys, so we got our spindle created. We're going to set that over here. What we're going to do next, we're going to make ourselves a handhold, a bearing block out of the same wood. We don't need much. Alright, so we're going to split this bearing block. Well, we're going to split this piece of wood to make a bearing block. That's what we're going to do. Perfect. That'll work for our bearing block. We actually got two here. So, what you want to do, take your knife, cut you out a nice little divot in your bearing block. That way the spindle end will sit down in it, and it makes it much easier to use. It's right here. This way when you're using your spindle, your bearing blocks, that's what you're holding down with. So we got that took care of. Moving on, we got our board. Now, as you can see, we got about 1 3/4 inches. I'm going to trim that down. We're going to split it again Actually, we don't need it that thick. All right, now you see how wavy this board is? We've got to flatten this out, because if you don't, it's going to be bouncing around. Your dust is going to fall everywhere. You got to make this as flat as possible. That's what you really want. We're going to keep this shaving here. We're going to make a cold catch out of this. So we're going to keep that piece too. So we need to start shaving down and get this board flat. All right, like I said, we don't have any paracord, so we're using our boot lace. I don't want to lose my little emblem from my boot. I'm taking the boot off my right foot because I'm not using my right foot much during this process. So we've got our bow here. Just grab a stick. You want it about from your armpit to your finger. It's a little bit longer here, but that'll be all right. So I'm going to put a bowman in on this end. For the bow, put it up high, and down here I'm just gonna lap it a couple times. Man, there's already mosquitoes out and it's hot as can be out here. They're already eating me up. We'll test. That's probably a little too loose right now. We'll find out here in just a second. Yeah, that's too loose. So we need to tighten that up. Oh, by the way, don't leave your spindle on the ground. It'll help draw in more moisture. You want it dry as possible, even though I sweated all over it. So this boot lace has some spring to it. So I have to pull a little tension on it before we tie it off. It has some give in that boot lace. There we go. That sounds good. Walk it down. Now you got your spindle. Now I want to find my board and I want to measure my spindle away from my board, and we're going to put a divot in it that our spindle is going to start working off of. Man, all the hitchhikers, it's freaking crazy. Put a spindle on. Now we need to get a burn as far as where our spindle is going to be actually working out of. So you're not worried about creating fire just yet, guys. You just want to use your spindle, get a burn spot. You want to divot where your spindle is going to be working in. So that's what we're going to be working on right now. Okay, so we got our burn in on our board, and also look at our spindle. We got some blackness there. Something I recently learned from Pathfinder course from Dave Canterbury himself is taking your knife and take all that charred material off, because what happens when you use heat on wood making spears and stuff, guys, you harden the material. So you want to clean that up off your spindle, because if you don't, you'll do what I've always done, put that spindle on there and start punching holes, because now you get a hardened tip. So anytime you take your spindle off your board, go ahead and clean all your chard off. That way you got a fresh piece of wood. Now with this, what we're going to do, we're going to notch this so we can collect our dust. So since I do have the saw here, we're going to use this. I'm going to go right down the center with it. You can use your knife. Most people use their knife. But since I do have a saw available, it just makes things so much easier to use a saw. Now I am going to cut into our hole just a little bit. Right there. Now we're going to take our knife and we're going to notch this out. Alright guys, so we got our notch cut. We also trimmed the back side to open up a little bit for airflow. But before we go on to the bow drill, we've got to split up our wood, make a bird's nest, some type of catch material so that we can actually start a fire. And also we got to classify this down so we actually have wood. So a lot more batoning. Alright guys, so we are also condensing down and getting shavings. We're collecting this because this is also going to be an accelerant for our fire making. So this challenge is a challenge. You got a lot of stuff you got to do. A lot of steps. Now if I was just using a ferro rod, we could just feather all this out and throw sparks into it if we're using a ferro rod. But that material there is actually too thick. Well, we might actually be able to get a fire with our bow drill coal with that. We'll have to test it out. Okay guys, so we got our coal burning here. Oh yeah, so we're going to let it air out just for a little bit while we get all of our material, our shavings and everything for our bird's nest and our bark and all that good stuff. Make sure we got everything on standby to start this fire once it's ready. All right. that is still burning. Let's get some more shavings. This seems to be what's catching the most, is all of our shavings. Remember guys, we've got to be able to use all of our wood to create a sustainable fire, which seems to be doing much better now. All right, good deal. Bingo. We have fire. And this is still our first burn hole. Very nice. I'm quite happy. So we made fire. We got extra firewood here. Our barren block. I done lost a spindle. Oh, there's a spindle. Alright guys, so that is our challenge. Like I said in the short, this is not directed at anybody. This is for anybody that wants to be premiered on our channel. You have to do the survival, well it's not, let me see here. What's the name of it again? The One Wood Bow Drill Challenge. I guess that's the name of it. That's what we're calling it. If you've already done this and you've got it filmed, send me your old footage and we'll air that. So if you want to be premiered here on the channel, send me a video of you guys doing this. You know, just like I did this one, film the whole thing, even if it's real lengthy, whatever, and we'll get it edited, chopped up, and everything that you need, and we'll get it aired right here on the channel. Right now I'm putting my boots back on. I got to take my shoes apart because I got these hitchhikers all over me out here. That's just freaking walking in the fields. So yeah guys, we were able to take one piece of wood and create fire. Pretty freaking awesome. Alright, boots are tied. Alright guys, so get those videos out to me if you want to be aired here. Like I said, we're not calling anybody out. These challenges are pretty cool. I like doing them. I want to do more challenges. I believe outdoor survival should be in your back pocket. I really do. You need to know outdoor survival. If you're a prepper, survivalist, outdoorsman, whatever. I'm a prepper. And I also believe that you need to focus on outdoor survival. So, of course, as preppers, we all carry lighters. I don't have a lighter on me. I ain't got a cigarette on me right now. I got coffee over there. But I've talked about it in the past where I've had my lighter break. I actually broke lighter in a snowstorm. Yeah, that sucked. So anyway guys, send those videos to me. Until next time, talk to y'all later.